Summer Valley Forum meeting this year. So it's good to have you with us. Appreciate the time. And we are, as Alison just said, we are recording this meeting. So if you don't want to appear, do just turn off your camera, that's all. So, yeah, so I'm Linda Robertson, I'm the chair, and here with Ron Hopkins, who's the vice chair. Okay, I know it's got Alison's name in the picture, but that's because we're in her office. Okay, so going on to the meeting, we were hoping we might get the police here, but I don't think they are they? I can't see.
Can't see them. And we're just going to do the AGM at the end now. We're not quite quorate. We're nearly there. We just need 2 more voting members.
All right. So we just need some more people to deal with that, the AGM. So we'll just carry on with the meeting as of such for the time being. So no police. So over to Ron.
Good evening, everybody. I've got a very carefully crafted script here done by the girls, but it says here the AGM report for we're doing the AGM.
That's at the end.
No, okay.
That's
at the end, is it?
Yeah.
I'm terribly sorry, everybody. This is all upside down.
Anyway, I'll show you.
I'm not sure our next speaker's with us either.
Okay, right.
Sorry, I don't hear that.
Yeah, that's where we are.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Well, it's a case of seeing.
Well, apologies once again for a staggering start, but I've got to introduce Holly Rowland, Conservation Officer in Planning and Conservation with Bath and North East Somerset Council. And she's going to tell us about the proposed changes to the Radstock Conservation Area.
I don't think she's...
So, Holly, are you there?
No.
This is going really well.
Well, I was emailing her back and forth about an hour ago, so I'm surprised she's not here.
She is now.
Is she?
Yeah, she's just logged in.
Oh,
now.
here she is.
Hello, Holly. Can you hear us?
Hi everyone, sorry I'm late. Yes, I can.
Thank you for joining us, Holly. You're going to tell us about proposed changes to the Radstock Conservation Area. So go ahead, please.
Okay. I have a presentation to share, but it might just take me a couple of minutes to get it up.
Well, what Holly and I were talking about was the St. Nicholas Church, the Nelson Ward Trust and its influence over the area, and the fact the old rectory got demolished by Radco in 1988 completely illegally. And that's one reason why conservation areas are so important, to preserve our heritage, not get it knocked down.
There you go. Can you see that? So great. Yes, so my name's Holly. I'm one of the conservation officers in the planning team at BEMS, and we are currently running a public consultation on the Radstock Conservation Area. So as a quick overview of what a conservation area is, it's an area which is designated because of its special architectural historic interest, and it's protected by legislation. And when we're making planning decisions, there's sort of higher design requirements or considerations around protecting the special character of the area. So Radstock already is a conservation area. It was designated in 1999, but there's been many changes since. So we've reviewed it, we've rewritten the character appraisal, which is the guidance document for the conservation area, and we've also proposed some changes to the boundary. So these are the proposed boundary changes in purple. Those are all additions. There's one small removal, which is in red, which is a modern agricultural shed. So the most significant ones probably are Redlington. Most of that sort of Manor Road area isn't in the conservation area at all at the moment, so we're proposing to add that in. And also Hayden, including this field, where it says number 9, which includes the one of the local plan housing site options. So these are just some of the questions that we're asking the public. There's 8 sort of areas of feedback in total. So do you support the changes to the boundary? Do you have any suggestions for special features of the conservation area? So key views, tree groups, locally important buildings. And that's especially something that I'd love to get some ideas on from people who know it much better than I do. And what features do you feel currently detract from the character of the area? And there's also questions about sort of management proposals for maintaining it or improving it. And we're running 2 drop-in events at the Trinity Hub in the centre of Radstock, one this Thursday afternoon and one next Tuesday. So it'd be great if you could come along. There'll be a few officers there, conservation officers and also tree officers, and an opportunity to write down your feedback. We've also got hard copies of the documents at the library and on our website, which is here. So yeah, it'd be really great if you could have a look. And if you have any questions, please email us. Does anyone have any questions now?
You haven't got a copy in the Hollies then?
We don't know. Do you think it would be useful to have one?
Well, yes, because some Westfield residents, and Westfield has quite an interest in this question of exactly where the conservation area boundary is.
Yeah.
It's easier for them to go into Midsummer Norton than Radstock.
Okay. Yeah,
where, of course, we have parking issues, don't we?
Sure. I could leave one at the Hollies library.
If you could.
Okay. Yeah, that wouldn't be a problem. Helen has a question.
Yeah, hi Holly, thanks for that. I'm a local resident and yeah, I didn't know this was happening, so just curious about where it's been advertised.
So we've shared it on social media, I think Facebook and Instagram, and I think George Clutton has also shared it to local Facebook groups. We've put posters up around the town, and we've also sent out letters to all of the addresses in the new areas specifically.
Okay.
It was in the journal too.
What journal is that?
The Radstock and Midsummer Norton Journal, the free newspaper around here.
Okay, I haven't seen that. That's okay. Thank you.
That's okay. Yeah, we have also sent an email around to kind of local groups and bodies that we know of. But if you have any other suggestions, please let me know. That would be great.
Will do. Thanks.
Lavinia has a question.
Oh yes, Holly, thank you very much indeed. How do you see this work going in view of the options consultation for the local plan that's going on at the moment? I mean, obviously this is very significant, and I mean, we are very proud of our landscape plan within Westfield and Radstock, and you know, it is extremely important for us that the conservation issues are listened to during the options consultation. How do you view it?
So I think the local plan options consultation has just closed, but we as a conservation team did sort of give comments on all the different housing sites in terms of conservation concerns, and we sort of let the policy team know about the proposed boundary changes. So I think in terms of the Hayden site is probably the most relevant. This it being
Well,
designated.
I would disagree with that, Holly, because
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
Riddlington, so I see the Riddlington one is quite significant as
Yes.
well.
And is that is that to the east?
I beg your pardon?
The housing site, is that to the east of Riddlington?
Yes, it is. Yes, there are RAD 25, 26 and 26A, basically.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah, of course, that one too. I would say that designating any of those sites as part of the conservation area, or those sites becoming sort of part of the immediate setting of the conservation area, wouldn't prevent development, but it would mean that conservation is a material consideration when a development is being proposed. So there would be sort of stricter controls over design and layout and materials and things like that.
It just seems to me, a rather difficult position at the moment, because, for example, there's been an appeal recently where the inspectorate declared the Radstock Conversation Area to be of prime importance to his decision. And then you're looking at, a development of potentially 1,150 homes. And, that is also within or affected by the conservation area. And this is not necessarily the right forum to go into real detail, but this kind of position is replicated throughout the Somer Valley, and this kind of discussion is. It just seems to me that the two issues are rubbing up against each other.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose there always has to be a balance, doesn't there, between the conservation policies and all of the other planning considerations.
Thank you very much, Holly.
Thanks.
I
Eleanor?
think, Holly, that
I've got three questions. Thinking about Hayden, there is a Roman villa underneath the field at Grovewood Road. What effect does having a conservation area have on the obligation to excavate before any development, or what or not? That's question number one. Question number two, I think the Riddlington extension is really important. Does it include Lower Riddlington and the former St Mary's Church and that area there, which goes back to the 10th century? And
if I can just answer that, Eleanor, it certainly does already.
It does already, right?
Yes.
Just shows how bad my eyesight is. And what was the? Oh yeah, the other important thing is I can't quite see. Are you going to extend? I think Ron and myself feel there should be a separate Westfield conservation area. But what is the problem at the moment is that the chapel, the Trinity Methodist Chapel at opposite Elm Tree Avenue, is not in a conservation area, and neither is a stretch almost down as far as the Wellsway. So is there an option to extend the Radstock Conservation Area, or should we agitate for a Westfield Conservation Area? There are 11 listed buildings in the area I'm talking about.
So in answer to the first question about archaeology, I'm not sure whether that site is within the proposed boundary changes. But in terms of obligation to excavate before a development, I think that would be dealt with via sort of specific archaeology policies and legislation, rather than the conservation area, which is dealt with slightly separately under built heritage. So I think it would already have protections in place, as far as I know. But to be honest, I don't deal much with archaeology.
Holly.
Hello.
First of all, apart from being vice chairman currently, I'll also declare an interest to say that I'm a Westfield councillor. Just explain to everybody here this evening why it's necessary to change the boundaries at all. What's the objective? What's the objective you're striving to reach with this?
I think there's a few areas in Radstock that, for whatever reason, in 1999 were missed out of the boundary, but really they have a lot of the special features that are found throughout the conservation area. So the kind of remnants of the mining legacy, lots of miners' terraces, some and other sort of clusters of historic buildings like churches and so on. So we're just trying to make sure that those get the protection that they deserve.
So it couldn't potentially be a steering document for future development of housing, could it, in the area?
So there
Or
is,
am I being cynical?
there is a section in the character appraisal about management proposals, and there's a section on sort of new development and the criteria that it should meet. And I was also going to mention the Summer Valley Design Code consultation. I can get to that in a second after we've answered questions, but that's another consultation that BEMS are running at the moment about sort of encouraging positive design throughout the Summer Valley. So that would also, I think, answer some of that. There was also a question about a separate Westfield conservation area. I think there's sort of two elements. I think firstly that the sort of historic development of the two areas are so closely linked that it would be quite difficult to maybe separate the boundary and also sort of the historic development of the two, but also that as a conservation team we probably don't have the capacity at the moment to to designate a whole new conservation area, but it definitely would be something to consider in future. So I think any comments in this consultation about that would be great. So that's sort of formally recorded, particularly those new areas that you mentioned, Eleanor. I don't know whether perhaps why they're not in at the moment is because there's no easy way of linking up the area as a whole.
We should bear in mind, of course, that according to the National Government Survey, the number of residents in Westfield now exceeds Radstock. So perhaps there should be some look at some emphasis somewhere along these lines.
Yeah, definitely.
It would be extremely helpful also. I mean, I can write you something about the character of Westfield and the way it's developed in terms of urban design and planning, which I find very interesting with the different estates. But it would demarcate where the boundary with Midsummer Norton is. There's continual confusion about Nightingale Way, and if we had a conservation area stretching up to Nightingale Way, and the need to preserve the memory of the Norton Hill pit and the disaster and everything, I think that would be very helpful. As you say, it's not so clear down the Radstock end by the college. But again, I mean, the Welton Road has some interesting buildings. What I'm most concerned about is the area around the chapel, which, and I can email you my history of Westfield if you wish.
Thank you. Yes, please.
We had at the museum.
Thanks.
What I was just wanting to ask you, which is probably, I hope you know the answer. Ian Taylor, the author, actor, and playwright, lived in my rank of cottages. Can we get a plaque up on the wall? The new owners are quite keen to have this. It would be nice to have a blue plaque in Radstock.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Right.
I guess that might need planning permission.
Well, I mean, plaques are not very large. They would just go on the side of the wall of the cottage.
Yeah. I'll have a look into that, but I think that would be great.
Right.
Well, thank you very much, Holly, for coming and showing us all this. It's really good. Lovely. Okie doke then. So
can I just briefly mention the Summer Valley Design Code? I'll just share this link to what I mentioned so I don't take up any more of your time. But if anyone is interested, this consultation is open until the 2nd of December.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you.
Share that.
Yeah.
Follow up.
Yeah, we can share that. That's brilliant. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks very much for having me.
Okay. See you again.
Bye.
All right. Bye. Right. We've got the police here now. Wonderful. so pleased they've been able to make it. So can we ask you to come in? Oh, hello there. Yes. Can you unmute, Matthew?
Hiya.
Hi there.
Yeah, is there any questions for myself? I have got some crime stats. I can try and share them with you if you want to have a look at them.
Well, if you tell us what you've got, and then we'll see what questions there are.
Okay. So, on the basics of them, the 12-month crime is down by 3.7% on 1,753, but 12 months ASB is up by 14.8%. I don't know if you've seen that recently.
Antisocial behaviour.
Oh yeah, antisocial behaviour, the ASB, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah,
Sorry.
ASB, yeah, that's gone up, that has,
Yeah.
from the previous 12 months. See if I can share it with you a minute. Eric, can everyone see that?
Yep.
So it does tend to go up and down, obviously with the summer months, I expect, makes it increase. Now I think I've got some, if I go out of that one a minute, I'll just show you the stats for the various offences, which are detailed there, but there's a bigger screen for that. Trying to show that so you can break that down as well. It looks quite high on sexual offences. I expect they've said before regarding the figures on that, but that comes into all sorts of things. You know, generally, unfortunately, when children text things at school and send pictures, that's why that makes that a very high rate with social media and what they share to each other. But in a whole, it's not too bad.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions?
No. Hello, Louie. What can I do for you? Just come in for a chat. Yes, I want to see if
One question, I think, the councillor.
Yeah.
Yes, my name's Lavinia Corrick. I'm councillor for Ridlington Radstock. On the drug offences, I'm a little bit surprised to see that, you know, in theory they've dropped. Can you account for that? Because it's not the anecdotal evidence that I'm getting.
No, what we may have found that has dropped because we have got a new team in Bath that's linking up with the neighbourhood teams in Radstock, and we have been doing lots of warrants a lot as well recently. So I think the message might slowly be going out.
Yeah,
So
I am aware of those, but it's been recent rather than for the last year.
Yeah, we do warrants. They're not always highly successful. The most recent ones have been more successful, so that's good and encouraging. But I think it does send a message out. You know, obviously any intelligence that anyone gets, just send it in to us either direct or via Crime Stoppers, and obviously we will look into it. So obviously those figures could go down again with a bit of luck.
Yeah. That would be marvellous. I mean, I am aware that the warrants are actually having an effect, but as I said, they've been in relatively recent months, not over the 12-month period. And the period just before the warrants was extremely difficult for residents. So that's really why I was questioning the figures. But I'm very pleased.
What I would say,
I am very pleased with your efforts, so thank you.
In the last 12 months, what I would say, I've been at Radstock 24 years, and we did have a lot of county line stuff linked to the area at one stage. And
we did.
In the past 12 months, I haven't heard county lines mentioned at all. So I expect it's still going on, to be honest. But obviously, what it was like, it doesn't seem to be so bad or coming to our attention.
I would agree with that. And again, I can't go statistically, but it's just anecdotal and what in terms of what the residents are telling me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a good sign.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Any other? Eleanor?
Yes, I'm speaking as a director of the Radstock Cooperative Society, and we've had a big problem with drug dealing outside the store and at the bus stop and the post office sorting office.
Right.
It has diminished a bit because the Jehovah's Witnesses have taken up a stand there. And you never see any drug dealing when the Jehovah's Witnesses are out. But it hasn't gone away, I'm sure. And I was wondering what your strategy was when it's just done so blatantly.
Yeah.
And of course, our other big problem is shoplifting. Where do you stand on that? Because the amount we lose from the Marcroft store is appalling.
Yeah, it is. We are trying to combat that as much as we can regarding shoplifting. Unfortunately, a lot of those crimes go in not straight to Radstock Police Station, and they are filed at source sometimes. And a lot of trouble when they get filed is that the store don't actually provide any evidence of it, or they're very lacking in getting CCTV back to us for any follow-up. So we do lose a lot on that. In terms of the drug dealing, do we know? Yeah, it's always asked for. The CCTV would be asked, yeah. In terms of the drug dealing, do we know if that is like youths doing it, or do you think it's older people dealing?
No, they all look under 25, I would say.
Right.
Both the customers, one of whom I found very much influenced by some drug or other, or the sellers, but they have balaclavas on, so it's not easy to tell.
Ah, right. Okay. I do know of the group you're on about. Wearing the balaclavas, and some of these off-road motorbikes, the electric ones they've been using, which we have prosecuted a few of them, and we have seized a few bikes recently in the last sort of 3 months. So that may deter them, hopefully. But yeah, there is a little gang that we're aware of down there, gathering in that area, and also the car park area.
Yeah, so that's another issue for car parking.
Yeah,
area.
the ones with the
balaclavas. What worries me is they're doing it around the bus stop where we've got children and older people. If they're in the back of the car park, well, it's not right, but it's not quite such a problem.
No. Do we know what times of day that is? Do we know what time of day?
The middle of the day, because I see it when I come going to and fro.
So probably when the college people come out for their lunch break, we might find this activity going on more.
Could well be, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll take a look at that. I'll note that to the beat manager. To have a look at, and we can all perhaps go out one day, perhaps plain clothes, and see what's going on.
Right.
Thank
then. You. Has anybody else got anything? Right. Well, thank you so much for coming along to our meeting tonight. And we'll hopefully see you at the next meeting.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, well, we do share it, so yeah, either with me or someone else. Yeah.
Well, it's lovely to have the police here, because just to be able to pick up on things is good. So thank you very much.
Okay, no problem. Any problems, put them in the messages, send them over to me if you think of anything that comes out in between the meeting. We're quite happy to try and resolve any issues you've got.
Yep. Okay, that's brilliant.
Okay, many thanks.
Okay,
bye.
Cheery, bye.
Bye.
Okay, everyone, we are now quorate, so we're just going to quickly buzz back to the equivalent of the AGM. And so I just want to say that both Ron and I are happy to stand again for our respective roles. But obviously, if anyone has any further nominations, then please, will you let us know? Yeah? Anything? No? Right.
Move on.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Well, fine. The AGM report for 2024-25 was circulated in advance. I hope you've all got this. of this meeting, and you can make your notes on it. It highlights many of the topics that the area forums have covered over the past year and the way they've developed, and the social political effect of going to various locations. And I'd like to thank you personally, and both of us would, for your continued support. The report also contains some useful appendices about other engagement meetings that take place, including parish liaison, as well as other ways of staying informed, which is very important. So please take a look at that and see how much you can dip your toes in the activities.
Yes, too right. Okie doke. So the notes of the previous AGM held on the 27th of November 2024 were circulated in advance. So we take it these are agreed as in a true record?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
happy with that. Thank you, Linda.
Okie doke.
Thank you.
Right, lovely. So back to Ron.
Okay. Another circulation in advance. The terms of reference were circulated in advance of the meeting, but there are a couple of changes to make to the membership. Hooray! First, we need to remove Creativity Works and Summer Valley Chamber of Commerce, as these organisations are no longer operational. We also need to change the name of Summer Valley Food Bank to Bath, Keynsham and Summer Valley Food Bank. Sounds very grand, doesn't it? And I'd like to know if you're all in agreement. Yeah, lots of nodding heads. That's good. Thank you very much. And I'd also like to ask, have you got any suggestions of new organisations to join as voting members, or new organisations we should approach? Anything like that at all?
Eleanor?
Eleanor?
Well, I sent you an email suggesting that it would be very good if we could have a representative here, either of Radstock in Bloom, Westfield in Bloom, the formal Southwest in Bloom members, or you could just call it Southwest in Bloom, or of the allotment societies, because, well, I think gardening in public places is good for the community. It's also very good for your mental health, even if you get exasperated by the weather. So that's my suggestion, that we approach either the allotments or the Southwest in Bloom people.
Sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
It's important to note, though, Eleanor, that's very good. Those are very good suggestions, and add very nicely fill in between the politics, the local management and the social side of these things. So yes, we will approach them and ask them. Of course, we've got no guarantees that anybody will accept, but we will approach them. I assure you of that.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay.
Okay, so we now hand over to Dave Dixon for the. Oh, sorry. Has somebody else got their hand up?
Helen, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Just a thought. I just wondered whether having a young person, or like, I don't know whether it's like a youth group or something, whether having a young person as a member of the forum would be a good thing.
So then you think that,
I don't know who you'd approach personally, but
well, you'd approach Youth
a youthful
Connect
voice.
Southwest, wouldn't you? Because we
That
don't
would
have
seem-
the
yeah, that
youth
would be good.
parliament anymore.
Yeah.
I think
Helen,
it's a very
that's-
good idea.
yeah,
Which
Helen,
I
that's
thought of it.
that's an excellent idea, and of course, a lot of new organisations have sprung up in Radstock, particularly in the new areas. So we will keep an eye on that and see if anybody's interested in coming along, because I think that's an important piece of slack in our organisation. Really, we don't have a lot of youth representation as such. So yes, good idea.
Thank you.
Okie doke then. So if we hand over to Dave Dixon, and he'll take us on to the election of the chair and vice chair.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Very quickly, obviously, item 5, election of the chair and vice chair positions. We've received a nomination for Linda Robertson to continue in the role of chair. We've not received, I don't believe, any other nominations. So if everybody is in agreement with that, if you can just sort of vigorously nod your head and I can see it all, or wave your hands. Splendid. Congratulations, Linda. You have been elected chair for the forthcoming year. And then we go to the elections for the position of vice chair. The nominations that we've received is for Councillor Ron Hopkins to continue in his role of vice chair. Again, if everybody is in agreement with that, if you can wave or nod your head vigorously, that would be splendid. Thank you. I'm seeing lots of hands waving. Everybody in agreement. We are quorate, so that's absolutely splendid. Congratulations, Linda. Congratulations, Ron, on your appointment for the forthcoming year. And if you wanted a small acceptance speech, now is your time.
I promise I won't shout at Linda anymore.
That's good.
He did tell me earlier that if I did something wrong, he'd give me a kick. So there we are. Yeah. We work really well together.
Yeah, congratulations, both of you. Well done.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll go on with the proper meeting now. So we now have 4 presentations on health and well-being. So to speed things up a bit, we'll let each person present, and then you can ask your questions, and then we'll move on. So firstly, we'd like to welcome Phil Walters, who's Head of Partnerships and Engagement at HCRG, and he's going to talk about the transformation of community health services in Baines, Swindon and Wiltshire. Okay.
Wonderful, thank you. Hopefully you can hear me okay. So for lots of you, and congratulations on your nominations and elections just now. So my name's Phil. Some of you might have heard this before. I've recognised a number of you on the call, but we're in the process of delivering our community health services, and I've got a short presentation. It should take no more than 5-10 minutes. I'll just quickly rattle through that, and then at the end, if there are any questions, please do ask them. Right, okay. Hopefully, can you see that? I can't see anyone, so yes, if someone could just say yes. Wonderful, thank you very much. I'm gonna get it on the slideshow. Thanks, Alison. All right, fantastic. So this picture is something that this is just an illustration of a service provision that HCRG Care Group are in the process of implementing. So in April 2025, earlier this year, we took on the delivery of a Baines, Swindon and Wiltshire community health contract. And essentially that, in the simplest way, I'm going to go on and explain a little bit more about what that is. But it's the services between your GP and the hospital. There's a range of community health services provided in between, and those are the services that we're talking about. So in April, we took over lots of services across Baines, Swindon and Wiltshire. Over 2,500 staff joined HCRG, and we're in the process now of beginning to deliver and transform the model of delivery. And this diagram here, this triangle, is all about trying to illustrate what we're trying to change in the community health services that we provide. So firstly, there's at the bottom, we've got a digital front door, and this is recognizing that lots of people in our community, not everyone, but lots of people are digitally enabled now, and they can use IT, phones, tablets to navigate their way through their own healthcare services. And so what that means is that people might be able to log on and complete a self-referral form. They might be able to look at what services are available and navigate their way to other services that could really support them in their keeping themselves healthy, well and fit. So for those people that aren't able to use digital technology or just aren't comfortable doing that, we've got something called the single point of access, and that's got care coordination alongside that. So essentially this is a phone line where we're going to have specialist staff that are able to help you navigate your way through a range of services that are available within the community. There'll also be people in the single point of access that will be able to do something what we call triage. So they'll be able to talk through your referral and work out exactly where you need to be. So our goal really is to get people exactly where they need to be, and try and handhold them to that point so that there's less confusion and less miscommunication. Then we're going to build something. The next layer on top of that is our neighbourhood team. So this is about trying to bring community health services closer to where people live, so much more localised than in your neighbourhoods. So some of this provision is already available. I know we've got Poulton Hospital nearby, and there are other kind of services provided across the Somer Valley area. But this is very much about trying to build on those localities and ensure that services that can be provided there aren't provided far away, so over at the RUH or in other hospital settings. We're really trying to do our best to bring things more local. And then alongside that, there are some specialist services that we know need to be delivered in much more acute settings, and those include our community hospitals. So we've got to the top of the triangle. So this is the model. Our goal really is to try and prevent people going to hospitals when they if they don't need to. So we want to do as much as we can to support people to be well and to live, to get the support they need closer to home, or even online if they can. So why are we doing this? Well, we want to improve people's mental health and well-being. We want to increase people's the overall life expectancy of our population, reduce the impact of long-term conditions, and improve access to care, and improve that care experience for our patients. We're really interested in making sure it's a good place to work, and also making the best use of the resources that we've got, things like our digital technology. So that's why we're doing it. Now, I said I'd give a bit of a flavour of the sorts of services that we provide and what types of things we're supporting. And this, we're trying to work on a better way to present this, but at the moment, this is the best example I've got of 3 different areas where we're providing community health services. So LDAN on the left-hand side, so that stands for learning disabilities, autism, and neurodivergence. So there's a range of kind of services and care pathways that we provide in the community there. The middle one is our CYP, and that stands for Children and Young People Pathway. So there are a range of specific services that we provide for children and young people, and you can see a whole range of examples under that. And our largest area, so, is our adults pathway. So this is all the types of services that we're providing in the community, ranging from frailty to heart health, to neurology, to a whole range of services. So I said earlier about changes that we're trying to make. So I just wanted to map out a little bit about what that looks like. So I explained that we started in April this year, and over this last 6 months or the 6 months already gone, we've been really trying to onboard those staff that have moved across to HCRG. Lots of staff already worked with us, but we've also brought in about 8 different organisations have sort of merged into HCRG. So we've been doing something called harmonisations, making sure that those staff are well supported and understand their roles and responsibilities, and making sure we are continuing to deliver really great community healthcare. There's also been some upfront investment, so particularly around some of that those digital things I was talking about earlier. So really trying to maximise how we can use our digital presence. We've also got a new brand launch. So by brand, I'm talking about, at the moment we're HCRG Care Group, but we know that doesn't explain who we are or what we do. So we have got a community health brand that we've designed, and at the end of this presentation I'll share with you, there's a survey that if anyone's interested, we'd love to hear your views and thoughts on that. We're really close, we think, towards to getting a way of communicating about what our services are. So Baines, Swindon and Wiltshire Community Health is what we're hoping to call ourselves, but we just want to get some last views on some of the different ideas we've got around how we present that. So by the end of year 1, so in the 1st of April 2026, we're really hoping that we're going to begin to have made really, really good progress toward being much more data driven. So understanding the data that we've collated, particularly through our digital work. We really want to be much more coordinated in our integrated neighbourhood teams. So we want to better understand the communities that we're serving and try and respond to those locally. We really want that single point of access that I was talking about, the care coordination, to be set up and ready to go so that patients can be fully supported in that space across all of our care pathways. And that digital front door that I've mentioned already. So we really want that to be live and for people to able to use that from the 1st of April next year. After that, in year 2, we're really looking to ensure that we're doing things like having a holistic assessment. And by that, what we're talking about is people just telling their story once to our teams. So we hear lots of stories from patients who come to us and they move from one team to the next and they have to start again and tell their story. And we really don't want that to happen anymore. We want to continue to innovate some of our digital spaces, so making sure, particularly in the actual clinic settings, using more digital technology. And estates, we realise that there are lots of buildings all over Baines, Swindon and Wiltshire that are being used, and some are fantastic and some are less good. And we want to make sure we're not using those ones that are less good. And we also want to make sure that we've got those buildings in the right place. So are we delivering services in the places where our community needs them? And lastly, something that I've been working really closely with the Wellbeing Hub on is our relationship with the wider voluntary and community sector. So we recognise that we need to really strengthen our community presence and work more closely with the voluntary community sector. So by the end of year 2, we really want to have a programme that's much more able to support our voluntary community sector. And we've built a model where we're trying to take some of the resources out of our more clinical services and to put those resources into more prevention services. And we know our voluntary community sector partners are brilliant at that. So we're hoping to have some grants available to voluntary and community sector partners by the end of year 2. So very quickly, thank you for bearing with me. So I just wanted to summarise. So we've got more information on our website, which I've got the details for here. I mentioned the brand survey that I'd love anyone who wishes to kind of complete for us. Just as a general kind of plug, we've also got a survey for any patients or people that might use our community health services. If they want to share with us their views or your views on the service or anything that you think we should be doing differently, there's a survey available on the link that I'll circulate after this call. And there's lots more work going on across Bath and North East Somerset and the Somer Valley to make sure that we're talking to all the people that we need to. And I know BEMS are on the call, and they're people that we've been talking to too, as well as lots of other local authority, hospital partners, and wider voluntary community sector. So thank you for bearing with me. I'm going to stop sharing now. And if there's any questions, sorry, I'm doing your job. I can see. Ah.
Yes.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Philip, very, very positive presentation. Thank you very much for that. Very optimistic in some areas. Tell me, the question I'm asking now is an old age pensioner sitting at home in April. What will they see different? What will be different in their life because of HCRG?
Well, firstly, that's a great question. What will be different? I guess what I would hope would be different is that they would experience a much more coordinated support as and when they need it. So firstly, I hope they don't need it, but if they do need some support, then they are able to quickly find out how they can be supported. Now, if that person is really happy to use a computer, then we would really like to have that. We would hope that they'd be able to log on, look at our website and quickly navigate where they could get support. And that could be for a whole range of things. But if they didn't feel confident doing that, they could pick up the phone and have a conversation with one of our care navigators and again, be able to understand. I guess for us, it's about access, it's about simplicity, and it's about really simple communication. And then that's partly because, we all use these services, they're universal health services, and we know patients, we don't we want to spend as little time as possible trying to organise and coordinate these things and to find out where we need to go. So really, this model, all the things that I've just talked about, is trying to simplify those things for you. So the simplest way to answer that is to hopefully make the whole process of finding out where you need to go and what you need to do simpler. We would really like you not to have to go to your GP to get to our services. And for lots of our services, you don't need to go to our GP, your GP, sorry. We really would like you to just, be able to understand and identify where you can go quickly. So I hope that sort of answers your question. I hope. Thank you.
Yeah,
Denise.
yeah, I'm sure that's pretty good. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got Denise, you looking to ask a question?
Yes, please. Hi, Phil. It's Denise Perrin. I'm the manager for the village agents across Somer Valley and Bath and North East Somerset. BSW sounds such a vast universe, quite frankly. So it feels in many ways, and could come over in many ways, as a dilution. So therefore, my question relates to something that you mentioned in passing in those graphics, which is the importance of the neighbourhood teams. So people might not know much about that concept, but if you could flesh that out, that would be really useful. Yeah.
Thank you, Denise, and thanks for all your work in the community. I'm familiar with what you and the team do. So it's a really, really good point. So we are working across Bath and North East Somerset, Swindon and Wiltshire. And part of that is around trying to improve and standardise the service that people are receiving across that patch. But alongside that, there's a real recognition that every neighbourhood, every locality is different and has different shapes and sizes of population. There are different needs that exist in Somer Valley to Swindon, in Bath to Salisbury. There are completely different needs across the patch, and we really recognise that. And I think the way we make this work is by connecting with places like this, community representatives, organisations like yours, Denise, who really understand the community and help us to shape the services that we provide to respond better to them. And the work we've done with yourselves around some of the kind of support for older people is a really good example of using some of the relationships we've got within the health space to improve that support that patients are given. So anyway, yeah, I hope that, that's a very brief summary, Denise. Do you think we could say more? What do you think would be useful?
Well, what I've heard so far, and we will hold your feet to the fire on this, don't you? That that of course, for people on this call and everybody out there, it's important that that the very remote areas, very people that can't easily get to their surgery anyway, but also the recognition that there are unique aspects of all the different areas. Now, that might be some of the older communities and the older people communities. However, it might be in the very new communities where the newly built, where the commonality might be the kids go to the same school. However, you can be very isolated in that newness as well. So it's, what I mean? It's so I'm hoping that that's what you're going to be working towards, is because, for instance, having, in a local community, having, a blood pressure check service, or drop by to find out about this, and those sorts of things where the messaging doesn't rely on everything being online or whatever, so that you can take your message directly into the communities.
I think we've really heard from our communities very loudly. Although you probably heard me mention digital a number of times earlier, we know that isn't the only way, and it often isn't the preferred way by lots of people in the community of working. So we really recognise that that's going to be important. which is why we're investing time in building these relationships in the community, because we recognise often, you know, places like this are where people really understand what's going on. I did also want to say, I know Roger's going to be speaking after me, and I know our primary care partners, the GP practices, are absolutely key to this. And we really need to, you know, part of our commitment is to try and work more closely together to ensure that there's a better service, you know, there's better services provided for patients. So I guess I just wanted to acknowledge that it's great to be working with BEMS and Roger and Dan and others on how we do that. Anyway, I'll stop there because there's another couple of questions.
Eleanor?
Well, first of all, I mean, it all sounds very good news, but the trouble is I can't read it. And I've seen your slides before in the scrutiny panel papers. Would you be able to email your slides in a form that somebody with rather severe glaucoma can read? That's the first question. And I'm sure lots of other people would like to have the information nice and accessible too. Is that possible? Yes.
I'll do my, yeah, absolutely. I'll see what I can do to adjust the format to get it more accessible for you. Thank you. That's helpful, Eleanor.
And the second point, I have a counsellor's surgery, not a medical doctor's surgery, and a matter that's come up in the last few weeks is there seems to be a terrible long waiting list for physiotherapy for people who have had a fall or broken a hip or got some other mobility problem, I mean. And I wondered why this is. I myself got a letter saying there was a 16-week wait for a physiotherapy appointment. So what I really want to know is, well, I don't personally want to know the answer to the question of the wait, and the podiatry is nearly as bad, is do you have the resources to cope with a growing aging population?
Well, that is a big question. Part of the reason HCRG have been asked to deliver this contract with the NHS is for that very reason, Eleanor, because we know that there is an aging population. We also know that that our health services are really, you know, creaking under the demand that is going to continue to grow. So lots of what we're trying to do is around finding new ways to support people that might mean that we can move resources to be more responsive and be more preventative. So you heard me mention about trying to move some of the resources that we've got at the moment in some of our more clinical settings into more preventative work. And by preventative, I'm talking about things that might empower people to live well at home for longer, rather than to lean into and use our acute services. So I'm probably not answering your question because I think that's a really difficult question for me to answer in terms of the resources available, because I think that's a bigger question for the NHS more broadly, and one that Keir Starmer and others are tussling with Wed Streeting. But in relation to your point about waiting lists, I'm very happy to go away and look into that more specifically. I'm afraid I don't have anything that I could say on that right now, but I can certainly reach out to my colleagues locally and find out, you know, a little bit more information about that.
Well, that would be very helpful. I know the ladies would like some well, there are actually two gentlemen in the same boat who would like the would like to know what the answer is. But I mean, the other thing is, there's been a lot of publicity about prostate cancer, and I think we could expect that there will be more cases coming forward at an earlier stage, which is good news. But I do wonder if we've got the capacity for them to have appropriate treatment at the moment if we had a surge.
Yeah, again, I'm sorry, I'm not equipped to answer that, but it's a really good point, and I think it's really great that it's really helpful that you're you and all of us are aware that there are those changes happening in our population. And I guess it kind of, we can all do our best to look after ourselves as well as we can, but equally we really want to support people to do that well.
And finally, I hope you're going to liaise with opticians, because if it weren't for my brilliant optician, I wouldn't have discovered I got fairly severe glaucoma.
That's a really great point. Something that we picked up through lots of our engagement work recently is the importance of those places. So pharmacies and opticians are absolutely critical touch points. There's something in health that we talk about around making every contact count, and I'm sorry if you've heard that before, but it's so important for us to kind of work together to kind of identify those early signs of something not quite being right. So yeah, thank you. That's a great point, Ellen, and we're doing our best to reach out and engage with and work with as many partners as possible. I can see I've got one more hand. Oh yeah, sorry.
Sorry, I can't. Lavinia, I'm sorry, I shan't jump in before you. Your question is
Okay,
very
thank
valuable.
you.
I'll just make a point to Eleanor just now. 3 weeks ago, I injured my right shoulder quite severely. I got an appointment at the doctor's within 3 days. The doctors referred me to the deep injuries clinic in Sulis Hospital. And Sulis Hospital said, no, you haven't got a frozen shoulder, you haven't done this. And I got an appointment then immediately in 4 days with a physiotherapist. So I'd like this meeting to not just leave here thinking that all is lost as far as time is concerned. When the system
that was a fairly acute thing, and I think we deal with acute problems very well. It's the more long-term things. If well, I know somebody's gone private in Frome because they couldn't get the physiotherapy they needed for a long-term arm condition.
Sorry, Ron, you were saying?
I was merely making the point that when the system works, it works damned well.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Councillor Lavinia.
Thank you, Linda. Yes, hello, Philip. Thank you very much for coming today. Really appreciate it. My question is about the complexity of access to healthcare at the moment. I think a lot of residents feel that, of course, they've got the first, port of call with their GP, but after that, it starts to get very complicated. Sent to private services here, they're not quite sure where they're going. And in terms of our residents, a lot of them struggle to access transport. So, the situation becomes more and more difficult. Again, I'm not saying that they're necessarily challenged digitally, but we have real connectivity problems here. And therefore using those, services are really, really difficult. So I think my question to you would be, how are you going to publicise what you're doing and what your role is for your kind of, 1st of April 2026 deadline? Are you going? I mean, I think I would like to see you, talking through local radio, local newspapers, and really sort of putting the story out there, because I think people are very confused.
Yeah, it's a really great point, and we're very aware that communicating what we're doing is so important. So I guess all I can say is that absolutely we're committed to trying to communicate as effectively as we can. I guess partly coming out and doing things like this is helping us shape what that might look like. So really helpful to have your feedback and input. And I guess the other thing I was just going to connect is, I guess so I've worked in the voluntary and community sector for my whole career, and I'm sort of stepping into this health world, and I guess my observation is that we could do better in the health world at joining up the services in the background, so that the patient doesn't have to do that on their behalf. And I think that's something that I know, again, for us, it's that digital piece in the background, not necessarily you guys having to, or us as patients having to navigate that. We really want to use the tools that we've got to simplify that process for everyone. So yeah, point taken. I really thank you. Yeah. It's a really good point.
And one more question about, you said, you're working through the community groups about hospice care, because a lot of publicity recently has been about the underfunding of hospices. And I mean, I take it that's part of your sort of negotiations and package. And I'm, particularly interested in the, because of the publicity about the assisted dying bill, and people are talking about palliative care an awful lot. Do you see an extended role for hospices, not just for adults, but for children too?
Yeah, absolutely, we do. So within our contract with the NHS, we then work with partners like Dorothy House to deliver the hospice services that we've got across BEMS, Swindon and Wiltshire. And we really recognise that they're struggling, challenging, the funding situation is difficult for them. And we are alongside them championing and advocating to kind of adjust and do more in that space. I guess the other thing to say is that we have lots of community nurses that are providing lots of really critical support around end of life and palliative care in the community and in the home. And I think, do you know the other thing, just because you brought it up, I think we really want to support people to be to live in a compassionate community. And by that, what I'm talking about is that we are kind to each other, that we care for one another, that we talk about death and dying openly and in a supportive and loving way. And I think just some of those adjustments in our society could really broaden and support that offer and that period of time in our lives when we most need it. So yeah, and that's something that HCRG is really looking at. We've got a whole piece of work happening with our hospices and other kind of providers around that end of life and palliative care space. And it's, as you say, it's really, really important.
Could I just add to that, if you're looking at community care, about the difficulties that people have in accessing mental health provision?
So that is one thing that we're, other than around learning disabilities, autism and neurodivergence diagnosis, we are not providing mental health support. So we work with our partners, people like AWP and Oxford Health, who deliver children and adolescent mental health services. So we work very closely with them. And again, that's part of our work in the background to make sure we make those kind of connections seamless for people, so that there isn't a bumpy transition between those pieces of care.
Yeah, I was just about to ask that, because obviously people struggling with their mental health are just not in a position, as with people who end of life care and that sort of thing. They are really, really vulnerable at that point of time. They're not able to articulate these things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, sorry.
It's all right. I thought you'd finished there, but because Helen Bolton has got a question for you as well, and we'll have to make that the last one.
Yeah, hi Philip, thanks very much for your presentation. I just wanted to ask whether or how your service is going to be evaluated, or if there's kind of any evaluation built in, and how that learning will be reported or shared.
Yeah, great question. So something that's changed in the way we've been asked to deliver these services is that the NHS have asked us to report on outcomes instead of outputs or KPIs. And I know that might sound simple, but that's quite a big adjustment for the health services. Again, I worked in the voluntary community sector, and we did a lot of work around outcome measurements and understanding what difference we've made. So you'll be pleased to know we are still measured against KPIs, things like waiting lists, and making sure that they're kept really low. But we're going to be doing a whole piece of work around what's the difference, what's the impact of the services that we've provided. And one of the things, Helen, I'm involved in is trying to look at how we can improve the patient voice and the patient engagement in helping us shape these services. So I didn't say earlier, but what I'd like to do is take away all the things that you've talked to me about today and sort of feed that into some of our work and make sure that our colleagues who are shaping these services hear about the different pieces of feedback that you've given me tonight, so that I can continue to use that to improve our services. And I think, to answer your question, Helen, we're going to try and do that as well as we can, like take the learning, listen, and then really keep listening. So we'd like to have opportunities for patients to feed in and to kind of help shape and design our services as often as possible and as frequently as possible. So yeah, that's our ambition, that's our hope. I hope that helps. And
Okay,
I liked
thank you.
your question. I liked your questions about getting young people on this group. I think that's great. I used to work a lot with young people who really care about these sorts of things. And I know in the Somer Valley there are some very passionate young people that I'm sure would be well placed. Anyway, I'll stop there. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
That's really great.
Okay,
I really
Philip.
appreciate.
Yeah, Philip, this is a huge subject. You've got a hell of a task in front of you over the next few years. I would like to extend an invitation to you to come to any of our forum meetings, because this deserves more time for people to think about more questions. It's a very, very fundamental change in a lot of people's lives. So thanks for coming along tonight, and please accept my invitation to come along at the next opportunity.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Well, my script here says that I've got to introduce Roger Stead, who's a Senior Project Manager for Baines Enhanced Medical Services, BEMS, to you and me. He's going to speak to us about our local GP Federation and what's happening currently in general practice. So, Roger, please go for it, my friend.
Hi, thank you. Yes, I am Senior Project Manager for BEMS. And if you don't know who BEMS are and what BEMS do, that's why I'm here. So hopefully I can, I'm not the technical brains of our organisation, but I should be able to share my presentation, hopefully. So can somebody tell me they can see that?
Yes, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to put it on slideshow from beginning. Right, okay, there we go. Yeah, so we are Baines Enhanced Medical Services, and I'm Roger Stead. I'm Senior Project Manager. I've been working for BEMS now for 7 years, and I used to be a practice manager in Bath for 13 years before that. So I've been in primary care, GP land, basically, for 25 years. So who are we? We were formed in 2004 when the new GP contract came out, and GPs could opt out of providing out-of-hours services. So we stepped in and provided that as a cooperative with all of the GPs in Baines. We're a not-for-profit GP federation. That means that all of the 20 practices across Baines are members of our organisation. They're non-paying members, but we are answerable to and governed by the practices. They're all set out. I think you may well know that they are grouped into primary care networks, and in the Somer Valley, the primary care network is Three Valleys PCN, and they have 8 practices as members, and they're all members of our organisation, as are the others across Bath and Keynsham. You can see there our aims and our objectives. We deliver clinical services, and on behalf of our practices, we are supporting the primary care workforce, and we represent general practice at a number of forums and stakeholder meetings and strategic planning things around health. We're not the only voice of primary care, but we're there to support and help general practice as much as we can. So there's our membership. That's our area. Those are all the practices that we have, and you can see these are the Three Valleys health practices. So we go from the Three Valleys is basically everywhere from Peasdown right across to Chew Valley and Harptree. So we cover that area. Although we are a Baines organisation, there are a couple of our services, which I'll talk about later, that we provide across a wider geography, the BSW that Phil was talking about earlier on. But we're primarily a Baines organisation. And these are the people we have working for us. Our core team are these people here. So we've got an executive committee. We've got some project managers, myself and a couple of others. We've got nurse managers. We've got some HR. We've got a communications and marketing arm. We have specialist services, so we have lots of different clinicians working in that. We have some nurses as well. We have some vascular scientists and enhanced access. That's our admin team that organise sessions, and they run the rotas and put on appointments and are usually the first point of contact for any patients that come through our services. I will go into more detail about what we provide and how it works. So these are our main three pillars. It's about clinical services, workforce and education for primary care staff, and partnership and collaboration. Phil mentioned earlier that we work very closely with them in the past, and we'll be working with them more in the future. And we work with lots of other people, so we do lots of work with the RUH and with voluntary sector as well. So we're always looking for partnership and collaboration. So we've been doing quite a lot in recent years with the local Cancer Alliance around doing some work for them. So yeah, lots and lots of partnership stuff. We are members of 3SG, the local voluntary sector consortium. We have been linking in lately with the Community Wellbeing Hub as well. And obviously we're here today and we're going to the other fora as well. So the Keynsham one, and I think we're doing one in Bath as well. Just to maybe just kind of make links with whoever we feel we can work with, or where we can help to support local communities. So our clinical services, this is where we get all of our funding from. So we will bid for contracts to provide clinical services that we feel we're able to add some value. And this is how our organisation is funded, through these clinical service contracts. So we have a deep vein thrombosis service. So this is people that have a suspected DVT. They get referred to us by the GP, and we see them within, I think it's within 3 days, to perform a scan and confirm whether or not they have DVT, and then to either prescribe for them or refer them on if they need to be referred on. Enhanced access is working for some of our GP practices where they're providing appointments outside of their normal office hours. So their normal hours for a GP practice is 8 till 6:30, Monday to Friday. So we provide some appointments in the evenings and at weekends for some of those practices. And some of the practices that we don't provide that service for is because they're providing it themselves. So it's an additional thing on top of their standard GP contract. We run a community dermatology service as well. Those numbers, by the way, are for the last 12 months, 24-25 number of patients that we've seen. The urgent treatment centre at the RUH, which is kind of a primary care front door for the A&E department. It's run by the RUH, but we provide some of the GPs. So we access some of the GPs to work in that service to help support the RUH. We run a fracture and soft tissue clinic. It's called PUSH, but it was the Paediatric Urgent Service Hub previously. It has been changed now. It's now the Respiratory Hub. So it's a service that we run during the winter months for children that present to a GP with fever, the usual winter sort of things that children present with. So they can send them to us and we will see them, which helps reduce some of the workload for the GPs. And again, we try and make those, we try and hold those in places so that they're still amenable for patients to reach us. We were running that just in Baines for the last few years, but the commissioners have asked us to extend it. So we now this year are providing that for some of the Wiltshire practices that are kind of RUH facing. So we've expanded that service quite slightly. CMDU is a COVID medicines delivery unit. So these are people that are clinically vulnerable who have a confirmed diagnosis of COVID. So they've had a positive test, and then our GPs will phone them and then have a consultation with them on the phone. And if they feel they need medication, they will then prescribe them medication, which they can then get from a local pharmacy. So that is one of the things that we're running across the whole of BSW, and it's a telephone only service. And again, that is being referred into us, and then our GPs then phone the patient, have a chat with them, and then either prescribe them or take whatever action they feel is clinically appropriate. We have really good patient feedback from all of our services. So we do try to get feedback from every patient. We hand out, we either give them, if we're seeing them in person, we will give them a leaflet and a form to fill in, or we'll send them a text message and ask them to give us some feedback. And as you can see there, really high ratings for patient feedback, which we're really, really proud of. And which we think is really important, that we're providing services that patients appreciate and value. So that's a really good thing that we're really proud of. We have had some people that have worked for us on short-term contracts doing specific project work. So we had a couple of people with us until last year doing some work around health inequalities. So they were looking specifically at people with learning disabilities, some smoking cessation clinics. We did some work with the local boating community and homeless people and travellers, trying to understand some of their difficulties accessing healthcare and what was important to them, and trying to reduce those health inequalities. And that's, although we don't have those people in post anymore because it was a fixed term post, it is something that we have built into all of our work, and we're constantly looking at ways in which we can address health inequalities. We work with the local council health inequality strategy group as well, very closely, trying to do that. We also have a cancer care project manager. Originally that was a nurse who was working with the RUH and with general practices about supporting people that have been diagnosed with cancer. She's now moved on to take on a bigger role, a training role, and we've got one of our project managers has now taken on a project looking at, with the RUH, and trying to combine the RUH's data with general practice data to try and identify any specific trends or gaps in service, so that we could then maybe have some targeted campaigns to again try and plug any gaps or address any health inequalities. Our workforce and education. So we work with a local training hub, the BSW training hub. We trying to access training funding and things for apprenticeships and stuff like that, and helping people to access other courses that they may not be able to access otherwise without some support. We run some forums for GPNs is general practice nurses, HCAs are healthcare assistants. So these are people working in general practice. So we provide a regular forum for them. So we have, again, it's more training and education. So we've just run something for all the nurses and healthcare assistants on diabetic foot care. We're also doing some stuff around wound care next month and going into next year as well. And we also have a forum for deputy managers. So the practice managers in BEMS have always had a really good group that they've managed themselves, and they meet on a regular basis to discuss various aspects of things to do with general practice. And we thought it would be useful to have something for the deputy managers and operations managers. So we run that on a quarterly basis for them, and that's really useful as well. We also have a nurse conference, which we've run for about 4 years now, and we do that in conjunction with HCRG. So it's general practice nurses and some of those nurses working in the community, and it's an opportunity for them to get together and have some shared experience and again some learning. I'm really trying to whip through this as quickly as I can. Partnership and collaboration. So this is where we talk about, I was talking about earlier about where we represent primary care, and in health we talk about place and system. So place is kind of BEMS area, and system would be BSW, to put it simply. And these are just a selection of some of the areas where we are feeding into and working with these groups, and again making sure that primary care gets a good voice and is considered in any planning going forward. Practice support, we will support general practices basically doing anything that they want. We've had a couple of practices recently who have not had a practice manager for a couple of months, so we've stepped in and provided some support keeping their practice management going. Some of them want some help with preparing for their CQC inspections, so we've got a project manager working with a couple of practices doing that. We do anything that they want, so we do lots around their clinical system, so we can create searches, so they can, if they want to search for a particular cohort of patients, we can do that for them. And we run a freedom to speak up guardian service for them, which is very useful. We just do lots of things. If a practice is having a problem, they will ring us and say, I've got an HCA that's gone off sick for 3 months. Do you have anyone that can help? And we'll try and support. So we are just there to do any ad hoc support that we can for practices wherever we can. We've got quite a wide range of experience across our team, so we can usually help out with most requests for help. And this is just the people that we have, and again you can see there all of those people and the experiences that they have. You can see that we've got some GPs that are working in GPs in BEMS. So Chris Lewis, for instance, is from St Mary's in Timsbury. Steph Coombs is a practice manager at Hope House down in Radstock. So yeah, and Becky Battager was a nurse at Westfield. So we're actually quite well represented with people that have experience of the Soma Valley area. And our plans for next year, well, this year now, outreach vaccinations. We've just started running an outreach vaccination service. So this is your seasonal COVID and seasonal flu. So we do a lot of outreach, and so that's some of those hard to reach communities. We've also been vaccinating in care homes and vaccinating housebound patients for those practices in BEMS. We've just taken on running an image taking hub. So these are people with suspected skin cancer. Rather than them having to go to the RUH and have an appointment, and then either they have an appointment to have their lesions scanned and a photograph taken, and then that gets looked at by someone, and then if it's not cancerous, they then have to go back to the GP, and if it is, they then have to come for another appointment. So we're taking away some of that. That's taking up a lot of the capacity of the RUH cancer team to actually treat those people with a diagnosed cancer. So we're stepping in as being that bit in the middle, taking those pictures and sending them to them so that they can then triage properly and not call people in and then find out, actually, you don't have cancer, you have to go somewhere else. So that's a helpful thing that we're trying to do. That's really only been running for a couple of months now, so it's still in its pilot phase, but so far it's proving very successful. And we have a cancer awareness campaign. We've just started doing that again. This is working with the Cancer Alliance, and this is about raising awareness of cancer, specifically in the younger age group, 25 to 50 years old, because there's an increase in cancers in that age group, and they're often not always aware of the early signs of cancer. We're trying to promote the value of screening programs, national screening programs. So that's another thing we do. And again, we're doing that in partnership with a lot of voluntary organisations, citizens advice and people like that. Future strategy, I won't go through all that of them. There is, you may have seen in the media quite a lot about the NHS 10-year plan. I think Phil alluded to it earlier as well. This is the plan for the NHS to move more services out of hospitals into the communities, and to focus more on preventing people getting ill rather than treating them once they're ill. So we're very involved in those conversations with all the health organisations locally about how we can help to support that. And hopefully going forward, we'll be able to provide more services in the community local for people. That's me in a nutshell. This is where we're based, and that's me finished. So I'm going to stop sharing now if anybody has any questions. Now, I am aware that there was a comment earlier on about the slides and the format that the slides are in. I will see if I can get this put into an easier to read format for circulation.
That would be great. Thank you.
Michael, you're
Thank you. Really interesting presentation. I'm interested. I was through a fundraising consultancy that I ran some years ago. I was involved with helping do a COVID project, which is actually trying to engage with the Black and ethnic minority communities in Baines to encourage them to be taking up the COVID vaccine when 2020. And so I'm just interested in what you talked about, how to reach communities, and are you doing any particular work with those communities now, or and if not, would you be interested in having a chat to me to see how we can engage you with BEMSCA, which is the main organisation that I was working with at that time? Yeah.
Yes, we are very much working with those communities, and we have linked in with BEMSCA on this and on other projects that we've worked. So we're very familiar with BEMSCA. Yes, we are. Our outreach vaccination service we've taken on a team that were employed by the ICB previously, and they've been working with lots of organisations for about 4 or 5 years now doing this. So we've made lots of connections, and we've got lots of groups, and Black and minority ethnic groups are one of those groups that we're certainly working with, and we are reaching out to them. A lot of what we do isn't just about delivering the vaccines. It is about having those conversations about raising confidence in the vaccinations, and also just explaining how it works, and just going out. Sometimes we'll just go out as an outreach and not actually deliver any vaccinations, but just to have those conversations. So we are doing that. We're working with lots of faith groups across BSW as well. So yes, that is very key for us. Yeah, it's one of the groups we are working with. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Eleanor.
Well, thank you very much. I found it extremely interesting, your presentation. Under vaccinations, does that include children and the vaccinations? Because our rates are not as high in Baines as I would have hoped they would be. That's question number one. And I'm also unclear where the dividing line comes between the kind of work that you do and public health. And I say this because I saw my oncologist 3 weeks ago, and she said if only people didn't smoke, didn't drink alcohol, took lots of exercise and kept their weight under control, I wouldn't have a fraction of the patients I've got now. So in this whole scenario of prevention and getting out to communities, do you cover those points, or is that public health and they get on with it?
I think the short answer, Eleanor, is both. Yes, we do some work around that. So we are running a smoking campaign at the moment. And as I say, we've got our cancer awareness raising as well. And we do work with our public health colleagues as well on that. So yes, we are working with public health. I think the difficulty with public health and general practice is that I don't think there is a clear demarcation between this is what they do and this is what we do. I think there is necessarily an overlap, and we try to be in the middle where we can help to make that connection between those two sides. So yes, that is something we do work really closely with public health, and obviously the prevention agenda is more going to be focused around those very things that you've just spoken about. It's about exercise, and it's about smoking and alcohol and things like that. So we are very, very involved in that and very much working with public health. So yes.
Thank you. I'm fanatical about people getting a shingles vaccination if they're vulnerable, but it disturbs
I did
me
not
that
see your
one
question
GP
about
practice
children.
wouldn't let you have it till you were over 75, and the practice I moved to, I could have it because I was over 70.
Okay. I'm not au fait with the regulations and criteria around the shingles vaccine. The vaccination service that we provide, we are only commissioned for COVID and for seasonal flu. So that those are the only ones we do. And we do flu for children if they're eligible, but we don't do the routine children's vaccinations.
Right.
We're not involved in that.
It's got to. Right, we're pushing time here, but Lavinia's got a question.
Well, hopefully a quick question for you, Roger. How do you sort of deal with maternity services for those hard to reach groups? Some of the ethnic minority outcomes for maternity services is poor, and I just wondered if that was part of the discussions you were having.
It's not really. No, we don't. We're not involved with any maternity services at all. We've not had any any interest in that. Well, sorry. We haven't had any interest.
Yes.
We've never had to do anything around maternity, and it's not an area that we've ever worked in. So I can't comment on that one, I'm afraid.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so final question, Helen Bolton, please.
Hi, yeah, thanks, Roger. My question is, with this, I probably need to look at the NHS 10-year plan, to be honest, but if there's a greater move towards prevention, which is a really good thing, a greater move towards community-based services for a lot of these areas where you're taking pressure off hospitals, does that mean that your organisation, for example, and others that are working in this area will be getting more funding? I don't fully understand how you're funded, whether you get central government funding but do you see that you will be getting more money, basically?
That's the aspiration of the 10-year plan. There has been much talk for many years about moving services out of hospitals into the community. The sticking point has always been the money not moving with that. The 10-year plan does make mention throughout all the time about if you're moving a service out, the funding for that service has to come out as well. We are funded basically from whoever is commissioning a service funds us for the service that we're providing. It tends to be mostly ICB and NHS, but as I've said, we also get some funding from Cancer Alliance and other areas as well. We've had some from public health. We would certainly be, if anything is coming out of the hospital to be delivered in the community, we would expect that to come with funding, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Actually, I've found that quite fascinating because whilst I knew about you, I didn't know fully what you did. That was incredible.
Well,
oh,
thank you for giving me the
much.
opportunity to speak to you, Alison.
Okay, cheers then.
Thanks, everybody.
I'd like to pass over now to Dave Dixon. He's Corporate Engagement Manager at the Council, and he'll give an update on the Community Wellbeing Hub.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It will be a very, very short update because I'm conscious that I've got Cersei here from the University of Bath, and her presentation is far more interesting than mine. And you want to speak, you want to be listening to her. You don't want to be listening to me. Alison, have you got my little community wellbeing? Because I'm not sure that I've got it.
Do you want to do the hub first and then Saoirse afterwards? Do it that
Yeah,
way
please. Yes, please, because I am literally, with the chair's permission, going to just race through my update. Because a lot of you will know an awful lot about this anyway. So, Community Wellbeing Hub. Welcome to Community Wellbeing Hub. In 4 months' time, it will be six months old. Let's have the next slide then, Alison, please. Do that. And basically, over the period of time, it's gone from being very, very reactive in its first 2 years, and now in the last 3 or 4 years, it's much more around the preventative offer and what we can do to try and encourage people to take more grassroots control over their own health and well-being. Next slide, please. So, Community Wellbeing Hub started off with 6 partners. We've now got over 30 partners. We offer 85 different service pathways supporting people's needs. You can see all the partners' logos there on the side. The vast majority of them are commissioned services in the sense that they're funded by the council to provide stuff. So that allows us to build that framework around it. But basically around all those different activities that you all know about. And at the moment, the hub is running at around 1,000 referrals a month. So we're dealing with about 350, 400 individual people at a grassroots level using those 30 delivery partners, feeding them simultaneously into potentially 85 different services. Next slide. This is a whistle stop. So, referrals, how to make a referral. Easiest way to make a referral is literally pick up the telephone, phone the 0300 number, and you self-refer. But what we've also got is we've got over 1,000 professionals in Bath and North East Somerset that are actually referring people into the system through the Rivium software system. So that could be a GP, that could be a neighbourhood police officer, that could be a counsellor, that could be a teacher in a school. All of them have got opportunities through the professional referral form to input the data into the system with the individual's permission, and then the system and the partners take over from there and actually start to deal with the issues that are presented to them. So, next slide. We also offer Directory of Services, and I'm sure most of you will know all about Live Well information centre website that's supported by the council and run by 3 or 4 of the staff. Huge amount of Directory of Services and information that's available on there, and basically often if you Google Live Well, go on there, you can often find an awful lot of the answers to the questions that you need before you even need to self-refer. So, next slide. And we're very delighted to say that we've managed to relaunch our wellbeing courses, started again on the 6th of October, free. Some of them are chargeable. Some courses are suitable for under 18s. And at the moment, we're developing the course programs, and we've got an individual member of staff that's supporting that and taking that forward. But anybody who's got any ideas or suggestions about how we can build the wellbeing course, and we're doing that in partnership with 3SG, and we're hopefully that's going to be really successful again at a preventative level at grassroots, with individuals being able to take some more concerted action around supporting themselves. And then what's the next one? And that's just, again, our statutory and our commission partners. So as you can see, we've got a whole host and breadth of different organisations. We're delighted to be able to be involved with that number of people. That's thousands and thousands of people and volunteers in all those organisations, all supporting local residents in the area of Bath and North East Somerset. That is a very, very quick whistle stop, because I'm conscious that a lot of you will know an awful lot about the hub anyway. So, Sarah C is the lady in the light top on the left, and I see Estelle's here. This is the lady in the dark top on the right. They are both postgraduate research students at the University of Bath, and Cersei is going to talk about the West of England Impact Alliance project, which is specifically looking at one of our local area around the Somer Valley, about addressing loneliness and building social connection. So I'm going to do the first slide, Cersei, and then it's all down to you, isn't it? Brilliant.
I'll share my screen.
Thank you.
Good start. So West of England Impact Alliance St Monica's Trust. What it is, because some of you probably haven't heard about it, Impact Alliance collection of 50 organisations, and it's around this idea about making loneliness a stranger. And so St Monica's Trust, which is a local trust, have allocated funding to support the initiative, and a whole variety of different communities have been selected across the southwest, but in particular Summer Valley and Bath and North East Somerset. So the 3SG, which you all know and love, is the local enabler for the Summer Valley, and they're the organisations who trusted to listen and connect, nurture the people that ideas that make a difference in their area, and then the enablers will identify what they call the change makers, which are local groups or charities or whatever, who want to create meaningful change, and then the funding gets allocated to those local projects and ideas that have come from the grassroots. So, but the initial phase around all of this is all around evidence gathering, talking to individuals, and so we are conscious about wanting your views, and this is why Cersei's here, because obviously as a postgraduate research student, she's doing the evidence gathering. So over to you.
Yeah, so as Dave said, we completed the research phase of the project, which involved both desk research, a survey that we sent out, and now there's going to be a follow-on survey with the general public. So the results that we have here are based on desk research that we did that used both ONS data. Just the caveat though, this is based on ONS 2021 census data. Obviously it's self-reported, but we did use it to generate what we believe are risk indicators based on literature. And then we were able to take the census data based on the individual wards and to be able to allocate risk factors and then rank them based on the level of risk factors per ward. So then the mapping exercise as such as we see here is based on highest risk of loneliness to lowest risk of loneliness. So we can see that we identified Timsbury and Radstock and Peasdown St John as some of the higher risks of loneliness. And then in the lower end, we see Farrington Gurney, Farnborough and High Littleton. And then in terms of this, we then fed on to see how we break this down in terms of demographic. So we can see that age in terms of young adults, Peasdown St John then had the highest percentage. Older adults was based in Timsbury. Timsbury we actually see popping up quite a bit in terms of disability and unpaid carers as well. Health status and disability, reporting bad health, we had a highest percentage in Radstock. Language barriers and ethnic minorities, we saw both in Peasdown St John's. And then this is also followed on by socio-economic factors and housing and living situation. And then just to say that obviously in terms of risk factors, what we've done here is take singular data. So it's not necessarily always a picture of loneliness. While you might have a high percentage of young adults in Peasdown St John, that's not necessarily saying that then that is the highest percentage of loneliness in that area. But what happens when we do look at these singular factors, we try and look at these intersections. So Timsbury, for example, when looking at the fact that there's 3 different risk factors picking up around older adults, disability and unpaid carers, might indicate that at the intersection of all these 3 factors, is there a higher risk of loneliness in that area for those groups? But yeah, just again to caveat that we recognise it's limited in terms of the data that we used is census data in 2021. And then following on from this, we sent out surveys to local organisations, facilitators and statutory professionals. We had 17 responses in total, based across 10 community organisations, 4 facilitators and 3 individuals with statutory responsibility. We asked for both in terms of where they operated within areas, how they operated in terms of loneliness, also what groups they felt were at higher risk of loneliness versus the groups that they were working with themselves. And then we also had a lot of open text response in terms of service gaps that they were noticing in their own areas, and also ideas for where loneliness interventions could work, or areas that maybe there's gaps in services. So befriending schemes was something that was often mentioned throughout as a need within Summer Valley as a whole, rather than just one specific area. Another key theme that we noticed from the open text response was this need to increase awareness about the importance of loneliness and social issues, as well as encouraging help-seeking behaviour. So that ties in a lot with that preventative healthcare that we just seen in the previous presentation. It was also noted that there was a limited awareness of existing services that were available for certain groups, underscoring the need to improve connection between services to enhance accessibility and impact. So that might be where it was a high number of community groups in an area, but maybe the open text response was that people were not taking them up as much, or people are having difficulties taking them up as much. And then in terms of a risk factor for young mothers was noted across Summer Valley, but an open text response was often that the provision is located in Radstock rather than spread across Summer Valley. And then there was also a lot of ideas in terms of what could be used for loneliness interventions going forward. So community centres offering free meals and workshops, social events like coffee mornings, creation of these informal social spaces such as park cafes, thinking about more digital inclusion such as local tech support sessions. Transport was very much mentioned in terms of local provision and barriers to being able to actually engage with these groups, and also a need for accessible venues. And finally, volunteers and connectors, which ties into that befriending schemes as well, was mentioned quite a lot as a suggestion to help people to be able to take their first steps into these activities. While there might be a large percentage of community activities within that area, I guess one of the aspects that we're often thinking about is, if you are feeling lonely, are you able to attend these groups? And are these groups reaching those individuals who might have a higher risk of loneliness? So yeah, that was quite often mentioned. And then Estelle is having her placement currently at Community Wellbeing Hub, so she was able to complement the mapping exercise with some Community Wellbeing Hub referral data to get a picture of the population being referred into the Community Wellbeing Hub and what type of service that they get referred to as well. And just to note that this data is from July 2024 to July 2025. So there is more than 2,100 referrals made for just over 1,000 individuals within Summer Valley in that time period. The wards most referred from are Radstock, Midsummer Norton, Peasdown St John. Interestingly, based on that risk factor piece that we presented at the start, Timsbury is the least referred from. The group most frequently referred are people over the age of 75, which aligns strongly with that ONS data that we presented and the survey findings that this is a population that organisations within the area often focus on. Of note is also that only 6% are 24 and under. So as we mentioned, within Peasdown St John, there's a high percentage of younger adults that were noted from both the ONS data and from the open text responses that are particularly feeling possible higher risks of loneliness. This was actually also noted across Summer Valley though as well, that perhaps there was not community groups that this group could access. And then around 130 people were identified as carers. So that further reinforces that this is a key population group experiencing substantial pressure, might not be able to access these groups due to timing restrictions and so forth. So to be thought of in terms of loneliness interventions. And so then also through the survey itself, we asked people what assets they believed could address loneliness or what assets were currently addressing loneliness. And this was coupled with desk research then. And so we were looking at not only community groups themselves that had a key focus on loneliness, but assets that could potentially address loneliness, such as local pubs, local cafes, supermarkets. Also thinking about those referrers as well, that people that could recognise loneliness in individual and then refer them onwards to these local groups. So that's GP surgeries, supermarkets, post office, schools. Assets then that currently address loneliness within the area, such as community centres, libraries, places of worships, and then also those groups and activities. And then in terms of potential assets, we had pubs and cafes, arts and cultural spaces, and green surveys. And then within this, on the right-hand side, the image that you see then is the map of assets themselves. I'm quite sorry, the graph can be hard to read in terms of the size of text, so we can send these afterwards in a larger version, and we do apologise for that. And so this presents an opportunity to build on what already assets exist in Summer Valley, rather than starting from scratch or starting to think about how we can link up and collaborate with these spaces in terms of local community groups that might already exist, but using these spaces too. And then also what we mentioned in terms of befriender schemes that are being noticed as a key service gap. Is there a possibility of using these spaces, such as pubs or cafes that already exist, to place kind of a legacy befriender scheme in place where people can meet in these areas? And then, as mentioned, a key challenge that was regularly included within the open text response and as a barrier to social connection was transport. So we began to map transport routes across the Summer Valley area. We then looked at the frequency of these bus routes based on the ones noted. So the graph on the left-hand side is public transport routes, and then the graph on the right is based on the frequency of the current timetables that are in place. So like, as you can see, Midsummer Norton, Peasdown St. John's and Radstock would have a higher frequency from the 171 to 174 bus routes that go to Bath, whereas certain wards such as High Littleton, Farnborough might have a lower frequency of transport. So not only are we thinking about what community groups are within each ward, but also how could people access groups within other wards and thinking about risk factors in this way. And building on all of that, that leads us to these final two maps. Again, apologies, like the text is quite small and we will enlarge this when we send it. But picture one highlights risk factors versus the amount of assets in that area. So the colour code shows the highest risk of loneliness as the same as the highest amount of assets. So interestingly, wards often align with the number of assets versus the level of risk. So what this would mean be Farnborough, as you can see, is in the mid phase, where there's the number of assets within that area as well, also within that mid. The one of note is maybe Timsbury, where had a higher risk of loneliness, but the number of assets in the area is actually towards the lower end. And then picture two shows the bus routes overlaid on a heat map where assets are located. So we can see here that Radstock and Midsummer Norton have a higher number of assets and often transport links into these wards. And then just to note, we do have one more additional study that is going live this week, and this is more focused on the general public of Summer Valley. So understanding perceptions of being referred into community-based activity while feeling lonely, because loneliness, as we know, is often a stigmatized feeling, and being referred for the feeling of lonely can be quite off-putting for individuals. It also is often linked with social anxiety. We also know that there is barriers within the area, such as transport, which might make it difficult for people and maybe increase that level of social anxiety. And so results will be used to inform the enabler organisation, TRISG, on potential barriers that individuals face. And then just to say with this, it would be great to have your feedback if there's any spaces that you believe would be good to display this recruitment poster. But overall, what we were looking to get feedback on today was maybe these are some of the key things that we have noticed, but we would really appreciate your own feedback of what you know from the Summer Valley area. So befriending and transport remains top priorities in discussions held in addressing isolation and loneliness. How does that align with your views? Are there any surprises in the data or evidence presented? Are there any gaps? Would you like to be involved in any capacity? And if you have any other suggestions. And then I'll hand back to Dave, who's actually a much better presenter than me.
No, that's not true. That's not true at all. Seriously, thank you ever so much. I always find this stuff is really, really interesting. It's a bit like the statistics the Community Wellbeing Hub. We gather all this information and data, we find these patterns, and then the next question is actually identifying gaps and identifying priorities. What are we actually going to do about it? It's very interesting that if you look at Timsbury, just as an example, and which really surprised me, higher level of older people, higher level of people living on their own, lower level of public transport network. Funnily enough, there's more people in Timsbury that are really lonely. So now the question is then with the program and what do we actually try and do about it? Sorry, Chair, I've taken over your role there. Linda, I shall hand back to you.
That's perfectly all right. No, that's great. Well, I know it's gone 8 o'clock, but does anyone have a quick question? Michael?
Yeah, I'm. So my slides weren't moving, so I've just realised that I should have been doing it as you were talking. But I'll go back and have a look. Well, we have copies of all these slides. So I would like to go back and review it. But from my point of view, wearing a community catalyst hat and supporting micro providers to identify, understanding more about where the gaps are in terms of services for people suffering from loneliness, and what we can do to help remedy that. There may be a lot of work we can do in terms of creating new or encouraging people to set up either community befriending groups or micro providers that can actually go and support people with activities that may help to break down those barriers. So I'm really interested in learning a lot more about this. At some point, if I could kind of speak to you directly outside of the meeting and have a chat about what we're doing and what our plans are, I think it'd be very exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Helen Bolton.
Hi, yeah, thanks. I'm not sure, is it Saoirse? I don't know, I'm Irish, so I read Saoirse. Yeah, so yeah, no, thanks, that was really interesting. I just wondered if there was if you looked at gender at all. Sorry if I missed that, but if there were any. And partly the reason why I asked was I moved here to Radstock just under 4 years ago, and didn't know anybody, and was kind of just joining up community Facebooks and stuff like that. And anyway, at one point, I remember seeing a post from somebody saying, you know, really embarrassed, but, you know, I just want to put it out here, I'm feeling really lonely and I don't really know what to do or whatever, or is anybody willing to meet up? And this actually pops up on the community Facebooks from time to time, this kind of thing. And there was just like, it was just incredible because there was just this absolute incredible response, really supportive to this person actually, which was lovely. But I counted, I think, well over 100, maybe around 120 responses and comments. And most people were saying, I am too. And it just really felt like it is a massive, massive problem. And I mean, I personally experience loneliness living here. I mean, I'm busy, so it doesn't kind of like consume me. But if I wasn't working and stuff, I think I would feel very lonely. And I still haven't worked out ways really of kind of overcoming that. So I'd be very happy to, you know, chat to anybody or be part of the study. One of the things I will say as well, sorry, I'm coming a bit, is there were some things, no, I can't remember who's running them. But various things like, oh, I don't know, go cycling, you know, learn how to do cycling or things that you can sign up for. And the language was to self-refer. So you could either be referred by somebody, a professional, or you could self-refer. And it just stopped me from doing it because I thought, I feel like I'm ill and I don't like this. And I just want to join in something and meet some new people. So if anybody's using self-refer as a term to get people to join activities, maybe just say join or sign up and just not self-refer, medical terminology. Anyway, that was it. But thanks, that's really fascinating. And I hope that really good things come out of the study. So, thank you.
But yeah,
Lovely.
just to say in terms of the gender, well, we didn't include gender in terms of the census data, just because there's a lot of literature that shows that it can often be misinterpreted that way, because there's obviously multiple factors in that. But what we have done then in the general public surveys is included some demographic questions so that we can contextualize that a bit more. And then also we were quite lucky in terms of the organisations that were responding to the survey. They were able to kind of pick up on certain groups in terms of who was accessing it, who was finding it a bit more difficult. And then similarly, with the referral kind of language, that was again something that came up in terms of the need for maybe both in terms of how people are referred in, but also thinking about that kind of befriender connector role of like having somebody to go along with that might be really helpful in order of getting over that first stage.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Okay, and finally we've got Eleanor.
Oh, that's wonderful to have the last word. I mean, if you're feeling lonely, having lunch at Swallows Cafe in Radstock is a pretty good antidote. The other thing I can recommend is getting a dog or a cat, because I'm very lonely now because my cat has just died. So if you know a middle-aged cat looking for a home, I've got an open door. But seriously, and it's a really important point, I would think, wouldn't I? The bus timetables, the buses do not run as per the timetable. They are frequently cancelled. They don't turn up. They don't tell you that the so-called real time is not real time at all. It's just a computer program. And it would greatly help those of us who are living on our own and getting around on public transport if we had proper real-time timetables that were really the real time. But the thing I just wanted to plug, I've trying to get a better way of getting to the RUH by having a community bus, a hospital flyer from the Odd Down Park and Ride straight through to the RUH. And if you start talking to people on a bus about how difficult the transport is, you get enough material not to feel lonely so much. So watch this space.
Yeah. And just to
thank
say, there's a lot going on in terms of transport and the Impact Alliance in general, and looking at it as a West of England issue.
You're going to do a boundary.
Well, thank you very much for that. That was it's all right. It's something my son's been talking to me about. So yeah, I'd be very interested to look further into it. So thanks very much for coming. So
thank you.
Right, so that's the end of our meeting tonight. So I'd like to say a big thank you to all of those of you who've come, and an update will be circulated following the meeting. So we do have some dates for forum meetings in 2026, and we'll also circulate these. And we're proposing that February meeting is online, June and September in person. And if anyone has suggestions for a venue, please let us know, because I love the in-person meetings. I'm not into this. That's why I always come to Alison's office. So yeah, anything that comes up prior to the next meeting, we'll be in touch with that.
Well, you've heard the chair's plea for suggestions about locations. That's very important. We really, really want this to be a community thing. So if we can find some locations, some venues in the centre of our communities, that would be very useful to us. So there we are, really. I hope everyone's enjoyed this meeting. We've gone on rather late, but there's been some huge topics introduced. It's taken me by surprise, that's for sure. And I need to read some of these things, and I'm sure I'll have some more questions in the future. So we look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Take